Alright, so we're going to solve radical inequalities. These are the steps that you have to follow whenever you're solving radical inequalities. You have to check and see if the index of the root is even. So is it a square root? Is it a fourth root? Is it a sixth root? And you have to find out when the radicand is non-negative. So you always have to set it greater than or equal to 0. For step 2, you're going to solve the inequality just like you would normally, like a normal equation. You flip the sign if it's negative. And then step 3 is testing the values to check your solution. So that's the part that people want to skip. Okay, 3 plus the square root of 5x minus 10 is less than or equal to 8. Step 1 goes first. If you have a square root or a fourth root or a sixth root, any root where you have a positive number, you can't have less than 0 under there, right? It can't be like -4. If you take the square root of -4, you're going to get a non-real answer, okay? So what you have to do for step 1 is you take what is underneath your radical and you set it greater than or equal to 0, because you can take the square root of 0. You solve for x. We're going to add 10 to both sides. This is going to cancel, giving you 5x is greater than or equal to 10. This is 5 times x, so we're going to divide by 5. 5 over 5 will eliminate. You're left with x is greater than or equal to 10 divided by 5 is 2. So that's your first stipulation, that x has to be greater than or equal to 2. Step 2, you're actually going to solve it. So we have step 2. You'll solve 3 plus the square root of 5x minus 10 is less than or equal to 8. Lesson. First thing you have to get rid of is this 3. To do so, you're going to subtract 3 from both sides. Am I going too fast or am I okay? Too fast. I'll slow down a little bit. On the left-hand side, this eliminates. You're left with a square root, 5x minus 10. And this is less than or equal to 5. We learned on Friday to get rid of a square root. You have to square both sides. Square root, square will cancel out. You're left with 5x minus 10 is less than or equal to 5 squared is 25. What's up? Yes, it will be. It's going to be a range. How do you get x by itself? Add 10 to both sides so that this will cancel. You get 5x is less than or equal to 35. That's 5 times x, so in order to get to 5 to eliminate, you have to divide by 5 on both sides. Leaving you with x is less than or equal to 35 over 5 gives you 7. So for step 1, it said that x has to be greater than or equal, wait, was it greater than? Yes, greater than or equal to 2. And for step 2, it says that x has to be less than or equal to 7. So that's telling you that your values have to be in between 2 and 7, correct? So for step 3, this is your test value section. You have to split it up into 3 different parts. It tells us that x has to be in between 2 and 7. So on the left-hand side, since you're testing the value of all numbers. So all the way from negative infinity to positive infinity. So right now we just have between 2 and 7. So you also need to check when x is less than 2, you don't do less than or equal to because the equal to is already here. Okay? What's up?
Where are you getting the 2
For 2? Because this tells you that x has to be in between 2 and 7. So on the left hand side of that, everything will have to be less than 2. Okay? And on the right hand side of this, so in between 2 and 7, now on your number line, everything has to be greater than 7. Because if you look at a number line, you have 2 and 7, it's telling you that everything has to be in between this range. You still have to account for everything less than 2, as well as everything greater than 2. Or greater than 7, not greater than 2, sorry, greater than 7. Do we know how to find those numbers? So this came from, it told me, can you let her in real quick? What's that?
That's what you presented.
Can you come back later?
What lesson you
First.
Okay.
So in step 1, we got x is greater than 2, greater than or equal to 2. For step 2, we got x is less than or equal to 7. So this tells us that x is greater than or equal to 2, and x is less than or equal to 7. This side is everything that is greater than 7, and this side is everything that's less than 2, because we have to test every value, even the ones that are not in the range that they say. Good so far? Where those numbers came from? Okay. So the next step is just taking and picking any number that fits within that range. So a number less than 2. Just say x equals 0. You're going to take this number and plug it into your original problem, which was 3 plus the square root of 5x minus 10, and this has to be less than or equal to 8. Where you see your x, you're plugging in 0, so you have 3 plus the square root of 5 times 0 minus 10 is less than or equal to 8. If you type that in, you'll get 3 plus the square root of negative 10 is less than or equal to 8. And can you take the square root of a negative number? No. So this will not work. This is not real. Therefore, those 3 dots means therefore, not satisfied.
So you can take any number.
Any number. You could have chose x equals negative 271. Okay? Just pick any number that is less than 2. I always pick numbers that are easy to work with. So between 2 and 7, you can pick any number. If you want to pick 2, you can. If you want to pick 3.5, you can. I'm just going to pick 4. Wherever you see x, you're plugging in 4. So you have 3 plus the square root of 5 times 4 minus 10 is less than or equal to 8. Type that in your calculator and you're going to get 6.6 is less than or equal to 8. Is that true? Is 6.6 less than or equal to 8? Yes. This works, so the inequality is satisfied. I would just put no, yes, no, or whatever, or yes, yes, no, or however it works out. So then you have to pick something greater than 7. I'm just gonna pick x equals 9. Only reason why is because I saw it over there and I have to look. But you could have picked any number that you wanted to. So 3 plus the square root of 5, there was an x, so I plug in a 9, minus 10, and this is less than or equal to 8. If you type that into your calculator, you're going to get 8.92. Is 8.92 less than or equal to 8? No. So it's not satisfied. Once you test your values, you then will find out which one is your interval. Anything less than 2 did not work. Anything more than 7 did not work. So your answer is in between 2 and 7. So 2 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 7, is your answer. Are you good on that? Okay. Square root of 2x plus 2 plus 1 is greater than or equal to 5. Step 1 tells you to take what is underneath your even radical, so this is square root, so it is even. You take 2x plus 2, take everything underneath it, set it greater than or equal to 0, and solve. You're going to subtract 2 from both sides, giving you 2x is greater than or equal to negative 2. We will divide by a positive 2. Your 2 over 2 will cancel out, giving you x is greater than or equal to negative 1. Step 2 tells you to take this and solve it. So the first thing we'll do is get rid of this positive 1 by subtracting 1 from both sides. On the left, 1 minus 1 will cancel out, leaving you with the square root of 2x plus 2 is greater than or equal to 4. How do you get rid of a square? Square rooting. The square cancels out with your square root. So you have 2x plus 2 on the left, and on the right you have 16. Let me see your classroom. Yes, ma'am. You're welcome to play. On my socks. What's up? So you get 2x plus 2 on the left, and on the right you have 16. Subtract 2 from both sides. And you get 2x. The homework is going to be the bottom portion of that worksheet that I just gave you. 2x is greater than or equal to 16 minus 2 is 14. Divide by 2 on both sides, and you get x is greater than or equal to 7. be greater than or equal to -1. Step 2 tells you that x has to be greater than or equal to 7. So if we have a number line, you've got 1, or -1, and you've got 7. Step 1 tells you that x has to be greater than or equal to -1. Step 2 tells you that x has to be greater than or equal to 7. So they're overlapping. So what you have to do is, whenever you're creating, that'll be okay. Whenever you're creating your different intervals, we want x is greater than or equal to 7 to definitely be one of those. X is greater than or equal to 7 needs to be 1. Okay? We need to test the points that are in between -1 and 7. So it told you that x has to be greater than or equal to -1. So -1 has to be less than or equal to x. But that has to be less than 7. You can't have an equal to sign with it because we've already talked about that here. But you still have to test your values on the left-hand side. So you have to test all of the values where x is less than -1. What sign you put here matters. You can't just put whatever sign, because you have to get the correct interval. Either you're including that number or you are not including that number. I needed x is greater than or equal to 7 no matter what, because this tells me x is greater than or equal to 7. So I had to have that specific interval in there. This tells you that x has to be greater than or equal to -1. So you have to have x is greater than or equal to -1 somewhere in there as well. The reason why it goes to less than 7 is because if both of these intervals work, like it says it does in step 1 and step 2, then both of these will be our answers. We're going to test our values and see if it makes a little bit more sense. This is why people don't like this stuff. Choosing the intervals and making sure they get the right signs is the hard part. Okay? But x is greater than or equal to 7 had to be in there, because that's what it told us. And x is greater than or equal to -1 has to be in there, because that's what it tells us. We have both of those things in here. So pick a value that is less than -1. I'm going to let you guys pick. -2. He says x equals -2. We're going to plug it into our equation. Square root of 2x plus 2 plus 1 is greater than or equal to 5. Wherever I see an x, I'm plugging in a -2. So I have the square root of 2 times -2 plus 2 plus 1 is greater than or equal to 5. That's -4 plus 2 is -2. Square root of -2 plus 1 is greater than or equal to 5. Will that work? Can you take the square root of a negative number? No, not real, therefore not satisfied. Pick any number in between -1 and 7. 1. X equals 1. So we've got the square root of 2 times 1 plus 2 plus 1 is greater than or equal to 5. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 2 is square root of 4, plus 1 is greater than or equal to 5, square root of 4 is 2, plus 1 is greater than or equal to 5, is 3 greater than or equal to 5?
No.
No. Therefore, not satisfied. Pick any number greater than 7.
2.
X equals 10. Square root of 2 times 10 plus 2 plus 1 is greater than or equal to 5. The square root of 22 plus 1 is greater than or equal to 5. If you do the square root of 22 plus 1 in your calculator,
That's the original thing.
you get 5.7 is greater than or equal to 5. Will that work? Is 5.7 bigger than 5? Yes, therefore satisfied. So for this one, the left did not work, the middle did not work, but the right did work. So your answer has to be x is greater than or equal to 7. These are the only values that will work for this problem. But where people mess up is that where they mess up in the past is they got x is greater than or equal to -1, they got x is greater than or equal to 7. So they say, oh, so x has to be greater than or equal to -1. That's what's going to work. No, that's not going to work for you. Okay? So you have to make sure that you test those values. Alright. Any questions on this one? Okay. Let's do another one. Do you guys want to try it? Do? Okay, go ahead and try this one. So you will always put greater than or equal to 0, okay? Because you can't have anything less than 0. You add 4 to both sides. This cancels, giving you 4x is greater than or equal to 4. Let's divide by a 4 on both sides. X is greater than or equal to 1. So there's your first interval. Then we have the square root of 4x minus 4 minus 2 is less than 4. Add 2 to both sides. This cancels. You get the square root of 4x minus 4 is less than 6. To get rid of the square root, you must square it. So the square cancels out with square root. You get 4x minus 4 is less than 36. Add 4 to both sides. And you get 4x is less than, not 10, 40. Getting ahead of myself. Divide by 4, divide by 4, x is less than 10. So you had x has to be greater than or equal to 1, and x has to be less than 10. So if you have a number line, you have 1 and you have 10. It tells you that x is greater than or equal to 1. So closed circle, greater than or equal to 1. Also tells you x is less than 10. So less than is an open circle. There's no equal to sign. And less than 10 is this way. The numbers are your interval boundaries. So we know your first interval is going to be right here in the middle. Right here in the middle is where x is greater than or equal to 1. So x has to be greater than or equal to 1. I know because it's a closed circle, but it has to be less than 10. So less than 10. It's an open circle. Are you good with that part? So now we've done this part. The next parts that we need to worry about is on the left and on the right side. Well, on the right side, if this is an open circle, right here has to be a closed circle all the way this way, because I need that point to be included somewhere. So x has to be greater than or equal to 10. For here, when I'm doing the left-hand side, this point right here is already included. So now I cannot include that point. Open circle, and I need to go to the left. So x has to be less than 1. You test those values by picking any points within them. What's the number less than 1? X equals 0. You plug in x equals 0 into the square root of 4x minus 4 minus 2 is less than 4. You're going to get negative 4, or the square root of negative 4 minus 2 is less than 4. Can you have a negative number under a radical? Non-real. So non-real, no real. Non-real, therefore not satisfied. Pick a number 1 through 10.
2.
Okay, 5. So let's plug it in. Oh, I want to pick 2, just because it's smaller. If you choose 5, it's fine, but I'm just going to choose 2. Plus, I won't need a calculator now. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 minus 4. Square root of 4 minus 2 is less than or equal to 4, is less than or equal to 4. 2 minus 2 is less than or equal to 4. Is 0 less than or equal to 4?
Yeah.
Yes. Therefore, it's satisfied. Pick a number greater than 10.
8 or 11.
8.
12.
11.
I said 11.
I was just thinking of a number.
11. Oh dear. So plug it in, do 4 times, our x is 11 now, minus 4, minus 2 is less than or equal to 4. You have the square root of 44 minus 4, which is the square root of 40, minus 2 is less than or equal to 4, 6.16. Is 6.16 less than or equal to 4? No, not satisfied. So what's your answer?
No, that the language of 1 is less than or equal to x. And equal to, I mean, not like for equal.
Is it equal to, I don't know,
No,
just less than?
for both of them.
One of them has to be equal to. It's this one. That one is less than or equal to. X has to be greater than or equal to 1. Okay, so do you want me to show you a shortcut? Look at your number line. Where are both your lines at? In between this point, right?
Yes.
That's your interval. If you do the open and closed circles, it'll tell you closed circle all the way to an open circle. X has to be greater than or equal to 1, but it has to be less than 10. For this last one, what did our interval say? We didn't do the open or closed circles, but if I do it really quick, X is greater than or equal to 1. So you've got X is greater than or equal to 1, so closed circle. And then you have X is greater than or equal to 7. So that's a closed circle. So if you look at your number line, where are both your lines at? From X is greater than or equal to 7 and up. What was your answer? X is greater than or equal to 7. Your one before that. For this one, you've got X is greater than or equal to 2. So if you look at this, wait, no. If you look at X is greater, if you do a number line for it, you've got 2, you've got 7. X is greater than or equal to 2. That is not a 2, that is a 7. You've got that. For this one, X is less than or equal to 7. So you go to close dot. Go this way. Where are they both at? In this interval right here in the middle. So it should be your 2 has to be greater than or equal to your X, which has to be, your 2 has to be less than or equal to your X, which is less than or equal to 7.
That's too much.
Right.
It's confusing.
If you want to plug it in, you can and do all that, but it tells you what it is in the number line.
So you can, if you do that, that's the answer. Okay.
You just tell me the points where they,
Fall.
where they fall. Both of the lines have to fall on that point. Okay?
What if
And
I
if you
say
do the closed dots,
like what if the graph is right, but what if I like say
your
it wrong?
signs are wrong.
No, what if like the
Are you?
sign-
Is it a verbal test?
I don't know, but like say I write
If you write the signs wrong, then you're in trouble.
no, like say I put like say I write that